Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
When I tell you guys... When I tell you guys I love you, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And that will never change. I will ride with this group until they don't let us play any more games. So bring it in tight, and then I want to hear you guys celebrate the 2022 NFC North Championship.
How can we not? How can we not get the flag, huh? How can we not have the flag out?
Okay, did you guys? All right. It's like the fourth time I've seen that clip, so I was a little more prepared for it. When his voice cracks,
It's awesome.
and then they give him some guy yelled, "He's crying."
Yep, that's my favorite.
It gets you a little bit.
It does. It 100% did.
That guy knows how to stand up in front of a room, doesn't he?
Yep. He can command a room, and he probably can pull off one of the most important things as well, which is it seems completely genuine.
Because I think it is genuine.
It probably is, but
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell when that's sort of contrived, right? Or like when it's a coach trying to be a coach. His public speaking skills and sincerity are really, really off the charts, which is super impressive for that job.
Yeah. Who would have thought, like, just being a genuine human who knows what he's doing can help elevate.
Hard for coaches sometimes, though. I will say that there's a lot of them that come off as, not that in touch with the players, yet still their coach.
Yeah, or they're like pretending or something.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome in. We're now 2 days removed from the greatest, or if you take issue with the word greatest, biggest comeback, largest comeback, most statistically improbable comeback down 33-0 in NFL history. We've got Vikings vent line from a couple days ago, which we will get into some of the controversy surrounding our decision to go live at halftime and then just ride that wave for 3.5 hours. And Judd's controversial decision to leave the game wasn't really fully you are a free will human, but
I could have said no, but there are some folks who have suggested on Twitter that I was bullied into the decision, so I can't wait to really go through this.
Okay. So we'll get into some of that. Before we start the show, let's shout out our friends over at TCL, one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. They have a new lineup of award-winning TVs for you to watch fourth quarter comebacks on, delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution, all at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL and the official celebratory beverage of fourth quarter comebacks this season, our friends at Surly.
And if you were at home or the game during the course of what transpired through that thing, you learned the lesson of why Surly is the perfect beer for a Vikings game. Because the first half, you were popping Surly's to try and forget. And you're like popping, it's so bad. You're like, all I got here is my Surly. And then in the second half, as Phil just said, it turned into a celebration of the best beer and a variety of beers. Logic Bomb, Before I Die, Furious, Controlled Chaos. I could go on. So that is why Surly is here. And that is why Surly is the perfect pairing for football, because good or bad, it is a delicious choice.
All right, here's the question. Let's dive into this to start here before we get to some of the controversy about the show. I don't know on the surface if you would say this, because the Colts scored 33 points in the first half. Ultimately, they scored 36 points in the game. So if you were just kind of flying in and you didn't watch the game and maybe didn't see it play out the way that it did, if I would have said to you before the game, the Vikings defensive coordinator, Ed Donatil, is on a very hot seat. At the very least, he's probably going to lose his play calling duties at some point. A lot of fans are shocked that he hasn't lost play calling duties or his job to this point, period, with the Vikings having the worst yardage defense in the NFL, and against an anemic Colts offense with very few actual weapons. Jonathan Taylor's going to be out. The Colts scored 36 points. You'd say, ooh. And the Colts are up 33-0. You'd be like, ugh. There's a couple screenshots people took of the TV broadcast of Kevin O'Connell kind of side-eyeing Ed Donatel as that game was getting out of hand.
Great photo.
Just like staring a dagger through him as he's hiding behind his play chart. But if you dig a little deeper into the actual game, obviously one of the touchdowns was a blocked punt. Another touchdown was a pick six. So that's 14 points off the board. A couple of the field goals, they were already in field goal range when the Vikings gave the Colts the ball because the offense, down by a lot early, was trying to take some chances, and they failed a couple times. And so when you start to slice it up, the defense came in allowing 6.1 yards per play on the season, which was last in the NFL, or second to last. So 6.1 on the season. They allowed 4.4 yards per play in this game. They held the Colts to 31% on third down, 25% in the red zone, and basically nothing third quarter, fourth quarter, overtime to help steal that victory. So how do you guys feel if we just kind of isolate all the crazy stuff that happened, historical stuff, if we just isolate the conversations we had about the defense going into the game, and now as we look at the defensive performance in the game, how would you sort of size up Ed Donatel's bounce back?
Well, first of all, I'd be curious how much was Ed and how much was Ed and O'Connell. Like, it feels like there were probably more chefs in the kitchen during the course of the week for this. We definitely saw more pressure. We definitely saw, it felt like a little bit of probably a more return to the 4-3 roots. So I would size it up as pretty doggone good. As Dex said in our hottest takes, the Vikings defense played probably the biggest role in the fact that this thing wasn't, take your pick, 42 rip at halftime or something like that. All of that being said, and to your point, Phil, taking a step back from the emotion and the excitement of what was just an incredible off-the-charts football game, good and bad, I also think that this is a one work in progress, and we need to see more because of this. Don't forget, the Colts had, if I'm not mistaken, and
there's the photo. That's from the Star Tribune, by the way. This is from the Star Tribune.
This is great.
Look at him. He's like leaning over, just staring at Ed.
I mean,
Ed's got the hat pulled way down low, trying to hide. Oh God.
Suspect one in the disappearance of Ed Donatel on Saturday night would be Kevin O'Connell if I was questioning him. But so if I'm not mistaken, the Colts had the second worst scoring offense in the league going in. So this was a step in the right direction. I love the fact that statistically Danielle Hunter got off the schneid, a sack and a half. I mean, these are back to the Hunter stats that you want to see. So step in the right direction for sure. You got the Giants next. And I guess what I need to see is week by week, are we seeing the progressions and adjustments? Because I'll go back to this. It's my contention that we have seen adjustments before. The Dolphins game. I think the defense in the Dolphins game, now again facing a backup QB, but I felt that they were more aggressive then and played better. So we've seen adjustments before. I think the real question is, can a coordinator who believes so firmly in his scheme, can he continue to adjust and tweak and still go away from that scheme a bit? And that story is yet to be told.
Here's one of the adjustments, I think, anyways, if you go off of Pro Football Focus. So the Vikings coming into the game blitzed on 16% of opposing passes. It says they blitzed Matt Ryan on 40% of his dropbacks in that game 2 days ago. And on those blitzes, Matt Ryan averaged just 3.5 yards per pass attempt. He wasn't pressured. He was only pressured on like half of the, I think they blitzed like 14 times or something.
Right.
He was only pressured, according to these PFF stats, on half. So some of the blitzes just like didn't create pressure. Maybe they had something dialed up and it was a quick hitter.
Exactly.
Maybe the offensive line did a good job of holding up. We'd have to go back and kind of take it case by case. But generally, if you're going to blitz and hold the quarterback to 3.5 yards per attempt on those blitzes, I would say that's a successful day at the ballpark for a defense.
Yes. Now, can you come back and do that against the Giants? And then the game that I really want to see for purposes of this is the Bears game, the Fields game.
I don't know that you blitz him a lot.
No, but I'm saying I want to see what you do. Like, that's the type of guy, if you can contain him, then I'm like, okay, you are trending in the right direction as the playoffs approach. I agree with you. I don't know that you blitz him, but stopping him is going to be very tough. And if this defense can contain him in that game, I think I'll be more impressed by what they're doing.
Yeah. There's some certain things that I just don't know that you can't fix it all here. I actually feel pretty good. Duke Shelley's had a couple of good. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Duke of Shell,
Duke of
he has been pretty darn good. I'm not saying he's lockdown. I'm not saying he's Xavier Rhodes from like 9 years ago, but I actually feel okay about like Patrick Peterson. You feel confident about him.
Yes.
If Duke Shelley continues to play the way he has for, I would say a couple of his starts, you could live with that. I don't know that you can fix the inside linebacker coverage problem. Like Eric Hendricks and Jordan Hicks just aren't going to be able to keep up with running backs and tight ends that can run routes and stuff. They're not going to be great at that.
Yes.
Like in this game, for instance, Eric Hendricks, when targeted, was Matt Ryan was 5 for 6, 12.5 yards per catch when targeting Eric Hendricks in that game, including one of I think it was the touchdown. The offensive touchdown was Eric Hendricks in coverage. So there's some things that you're just like, I don't know, Cam Bynum feels like he's been kind of a problem all year. So you're trying to parse apart what can you live with, what can't you live with, how can you make up for some of the deficiencies with scheme changes or being more aggressive, rolling the dice with blitzes. And I feel like Saturday was, if you dig through it all, Saturday was a good start to patching this thing up. But you're right. Now you have to kind of see it. You got 3 more weeks left to see it, fine-tune it. Can you just have like a league average-ish defense going into the playoffs and then rely on your offense to carry most of the load at home?
And I think the thing for Ed now that they're going to put the adjustments or have put a bunch of them on tape is this one too. Teams aren't dumb. Teams are now going to adjust to the adjustments. And now it's up to you as a coach to be like, okay, I either A, see this coming, or B, I just saw something in game that they're doing to beat us now because of what we're doing differently. I'll give you a prime one. And I think we talked about this during our 3-hour telethon vent line on Saturday, but there was a play early in that game on Saturday where Hunter came off the right end, which, cool. That's great. They quickly threw a screen pass into the flat to beat that. So he's now upfield. So he's out. So now you got to come. And I mean, this is standard football. The tackle shouldn't be tough. But the point is, like, that's a way to beat that. So now if you're the Vikings and Donatel and KOC, I guess, you have to adjust to that play. Because if Hunter's going to rush more, which I encourage, like dropping Daniil back into coverage occasionally, very occasionally is fine. But I mean, I think in the piece that Seifert wrote last week, he basically proved, or ESPN Stats and Info proved, that Zadarius Smith and Hunter were dropping back into coverage more than they ever had. That's probably excessive. So it's everything that teams are going to adjust to. And then I guess I have one question too, since they are the champions of the North, since they have conquered the North in playoff game 1, do you have anything that you can unveil, tricks up your sleeve? And I'm not saying like, oh my God, they've redone the defense and now it's totally fixed, but do you have adjustments and or tricks that you can break out against certain opponents in the playoffs that they're not going to expect?
Yeah, that is an interesting aspect to coaching, which I'd love to ask sort of like an off the record question to some of the best coaches, the Andy Reids, the guys that have gone deep, Bill Belichick.
Yep.
Because there's the week to week chess match of you have to throw everything you can at the team across from you to beat them, because the NFL it's a very thin margin across the board. But is there a macro chess match where you withhold things on purpose? Maybe it hurts you on the week to week, but you withhold things knowing that you might see that team a second or third time. You might need a little extra something to get by a wild card playoff opponent. To your point about dropping back into coverage, by the way, so it's not happening a lot, but Seifert was definitely right in his piece. It's happening more than it has in their careers. So Daniil Hunter has dropped back into coverage 28 times this season.
Yep.
Last year, and he played only half the snaps that he has so far this year. Last year, only 7 games. He dropped back twice in 7 games last year. His previous career high was 18 times dropping back into coverage in 2017. So he's already 10 past that, We're talking about, on average, like 2 or 3 times a game, Daniil drops back into coverage. And Za'Darius is more like solidly 3 times per game. Za'Darius has dropped back into coverage 31 times. 2 years ago, his last fully healthy season in Green Bay, 7 times. So, again, it's not like 10 times a game, but it's 2 or 3 times a game. And I find that interesting. They're obviously doing it strategically, but if you're going to tell me, all right, we're going to take one of the best pass rushers in the NFL or 2 of them out of their element for 2 to 3, maybe 4 plays per game. Okay, are you forfeiting a sack? Are you forfeiting a strip sack, like fumble? Is the gain of putting him back into coverage and whatever deception you're running to get pressure worth it? And I would say this season, I don't think it has been. I don't know that you would say, all right, dropping those guys back into coverage an extra 2 or 3 times a game is helping the overall defense. I don't know that you could say that.
You also have to figure out, too, here, if the 49, this is a bigger overarching theme, but will the 49ers stumble in one of these Commanders and Raiders games coming up? So that's who they have in their next 2 games. They have Commanders on Saturday on Christmas Eve. They're in Oakland on January 1st. Can you keep pace, keep a game up on them? And then when you go into the Bears game, you're basically the regular season finale. Is there a situation where you can also rest Za'Darius and rest these guys? So by the time you get to wild card weekend, you're not having a Za'Darius Smith only playing at his 65, 70th percentile. And can you rest some of these dudes? Now those things are out of your control. So you have to hope that maybe the San Francisco 49ers stumble a bit. But that's also key, I think, here too. If they can go into the Bears game or even like halftime of the Packers game and have some of these guys potentially rested, God, that would be huge for this team long-term health-wise in the playoffs.
Yeah, so Washington's feisty. They're fighting for a playoff spot. Vegas is kind of fighting. If Vegas wins out, they might have a shot, and they won that crazy game yesterday. Arizona week 18 that's a home game for San Fran. So you need them. If the Vikings win out, it's irrelevant, but you're talking about winning the next 2. San Fran stumbles so that you have a 2-game gap going into week 18, so it's clinched. Here's the thing about San Francisco. They haven't lost in 2 months. They are 7-0 in their last 7 games, and every one of those games has been a 2-score game or a blowout, except for 2 of them. At Seattle last Thursday wound up being a backdoor 8-point game. I was at that game. That was a blowout. But it finishes as an 8-point game. And then home against the Chargers on November 13th was a 6-point win for them. Otherwise, they've just been smoking everyone since they lost against Kansas City on October 23rd. So I don't know that I would rely or bet on them losing one of these next couple games. You might just have to grind this thing out and play starters in week 18 if San Francisco doesn't stumble.
Are the Packers going to play Rodgers through week 18 or through week
They're gonna play him
here?
until they are mathematically eliminated, and they are still mathematically alive.
That is such an unfortunate, stupid move. You've got to find out with Jordan Love. Now, Jordan Love too would be a decent test because again, I want to see this Vikings defense against all different types of QBs to see what they're doing. My fear with Donatel is I feel like he gives in to the pressure, adjusts things, and then tries to quickly go back to what he did. I do. Like he is one of these guys because guys who believe that their scheme work hate to go away from that scheme. And so, like, I feel like the past week, starting with O'Connell, to his credit, there was pressure, right? Like, Ed, you got to adjust this. We can't keep doing this. And so Ed goes into his office and comes out with adjustments. And I'm guessing he got help again because I don't think that that's all Ed. But long story short, the adjustments take place. I think that, despite the fact the Colts aren't good offensively, the Vikings did a nice job. Now, do you stick with those adjustments? And more importantly, do you continue to make them too based on opponents? Because that's what can win you. If there is a chance to make a playoff run, you're going to have to be very willing to change things up on a weekly basis to give different looks and to also make damn sure that you are as prepared as possible for the quarterback and the offense that you're going to face next.
So I disagree with you on something. I would rather the Packers win their next 2 games and the Vikings go into Lambeau with the Packers fighting for their season on New Year's Day, because then you would face basically the last gasp of Aaron Rodgers So here's where things kind of stand. The Packers have to win out because they have 8 losses, and the Commanders are sitting in the 7 seed at 7-6-1. And then you also have the Seahawks and the Lions ahead of the Packers at 7-7. So the Packers, if they lose their 9th game, it's pretty much over. Tonight they play the Rams at home. And I get that, like, Baker Mayfield pulled a rabbit out of his hat, last week or whatever, but
yes.
Packers are probably going to win that game. So that brings them to 6-8. Then they get Miami on the road. That's going to be really tough. That might be the season ender for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if they beat Miami on the road, they'd be 7-8 going into the New Year's Day game at Lambeau Field against the Vikings. And the Vikings would not have really wrapped anything up unless the Niners really stumble or something.
Sure.
So to me, that would kind of be a great playoff test that you'd be going on the road against a Hall of Fame quarterback. They've won 3 games in a row. They're fighting for their playoff lives, and you have to put them to bed. And if you do, maybe then you get to take week 18 off.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm kind of, I don't know if I'm rooting for that whole scenario, but it would be, they've already clinched the division, so it's kind of like, if you're looking for a nice little test, that would be the test with very little downside. Because if you lose the game, you still win the division.
Right.
You still play a home playoff game in the wild card round. Do you want to guess some PFF grades here before we get into your...
Yeah, let's do it. I cheated a little bit, but it's just on one because I can't recall for the life of me what else I saw defensively.
All right, every week we put Judd, his longtime grizzled eye test, as an NFL reporter, an NFL columnist, and now an NFL radio host, NFL podcaster, skeptic, and he guesses the PFF grades, who are the best 3 players on offense and defense. So let's just full disclosure. You already know that Duke Shelley was the highest graded defensive player.
Yep. Great game for the Duke.
83.9 for the
Phenomenal.
Duke.
Good for him.
Pretty good.
Good for him. And I laughed.
So as always, we're looking for guys who played at least 20 snaps. So all starters and any backups that play at least 20 snaps. I guess, why don't you give us we're not going to let you off the hook. Why don't you give us the next 3 best players behind Duke Shelley? We're going to make you guess 3.
Okay.
So you get up to 3 incorrect guesses on each side of the ball.
All right. Sack and a half. I feel like he's graded out well. I feel like there's a consistency. If you grade out well, you a lot of times continue. This is not a rule, but it just seems like it. Danielle Hunter.
Very interesting. He led the team in pressures with 5, in quarterback hits with 3. He had the sack and a half. And he even had 3 stop tackles in this game.
And he's not.
But he was like the 5th highest graded player. So he wasn't bad, but he didn't have like a monster game according to Pro Football Focus.
Okay.
So I think what's happening here, he played 73 snaps, and we're looking at it saying, wow, he flashed. We saw him flash on like 5 or 6 of those snaps, but they're saying on the other 65, 67 snaps, he was fine.
Yep. All right. Back to the drawing board.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy who seemingly grades out, it feels like, pretty well when his stats aren't fantastic is our good old friend, Za'Darius Smith.
Hilarious.
Is that a final guess?
That's a final guess, yes.
He was the 2nd highest graded Viking, yes. And they loved him in run defense. He had 4 stop tackles. He had a sack. Very nice performance by Za'Darius.
All right. Back to the veteran well here. This guy made a early touchdown saving tackle in one of the 5 drives that ended up with a Chase McLaughlin field goal. Heck of a play. Harrison Smith, final guess.
Harry the Hitman.
Oh,
Sort of mid-pack. He was sort of mid-pack. He had a 64.9 grade, which is right around an average performance,
Mid-pack.
I guess. They did send him in pass rush 4 times.
okay. All right.
You got one more. We need 2 more players. You get 1 more wrong
I got
guess.
one more guess. Okay. Well, we already know that the Duke of Shelley had a career game. And I feel like if he had a career game, the PFF would also smile on his fellow cornerback. So I'm going to go with the long in the tooth, the man who inspired this team at halftime by saying you only have to score 5 touchdowns. The man who hates Steve Keim and the Cardinals.
Just
Patrick Peterson. You didn't let me say it.
Six
You
different
dinged me
names
before
for
I got-
Patrick Peterson.
Is he not going to send a get well card to Steve Keim? Is that what you're saying?
What do we know what's wrong with Steve?
I don't think they were specific about it.
I've got a guess, but I'm not going to say it.
The Cardinals have had some weird things over the year. Remember when Bruce Arians was their coach like 5 years ago?
Oh, the Cardinals have always been a weird. Yes.
They played the Vikings. Didn't they play the Vikings on a Thursday night and then he just stayed in the hospital?
Yes. Yeah.
He just like stayed at HCMC and then went back and coached the next week.
Yeah, he definitely his face would turn beet red, and his heart would race.
The Cardinals may want to try some more meditation or something.
Seemed like a bad idea.
Everyone seems very stressed out over there.
Seemed like a bad idea to coach.
All right, so you've got the top 3, but since you already had Duke Shelley because he cheated, we're making you guess the 4th.
Cheated for my prep work for last night's show, though. All right. So it's not bad enough that I was forced to leave the game on Saturday. Now I'm forced to guess an extra PFF grade. Oh boy, this one's going to be tough. This one's going to be tough. All right. If they liked Zalarius in run defense, I'm going to continue on the run defensive theme. I'm going to dismiss the linebackers. I already guessed a safety. Harrison Phillips, final guess.
Oh, he was the next best. You
Oh!
were on the trail, but slightly above him
Galvin?
was Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks
Had
had a nice tackling game. He had 3 stop tackles.
Okay.
He was only targeted once in the passing game, which probably prevented his grade from being worse. So Jordan Hicks had a good little game for the
I'd like to
Vikings.
object to Daniil Hunter being below Jordan Hicks.
This is what's tough. I mean, these guys are grinding every single snap. Now,
Or are they? Or are they? Could
you're
I
saying
come
that
out?
the
Could I?
PFF's cheating teams out of their money?
I'm going to start JFF, Judd's Football Focus. I'm going to grade every player. I'm not going to watch anything.
The
It's going to
3
come
worst.
off red zone. Scott Hansen, highest graded guy.
Oh my God. The three worst Vikings defensive players according to PFF were Cam Bynum, Eric Kendricks, and the 21 snaps of Brian Asamoah did not go particularly well. So I don't. Asamoah might not be it. He might not be it. All right, offense. Give us the 3 best offensive players that played 20 snaps or more in this game.
Okay. Kirk Cousins, final guess. Justin Jefferson, final guess.
Justin Jefferson, yes, he was the 3rd highest graded player. Kirk Cousins was mid to low pack, actually, because you got to keep in mind he was really bad in the first half. Now, some of this is like, okay, on the Jalen Reagor plays,
Right.
ultimately Kirk throws the pick on that pick 6, but Jalen Reagor just moved out of the way. I watched that play and thought, if I was a quarterback, I'd be irate. Like, dude, what are you doing?
In the second one, he stopped running.
Yeah. And then there's some other plays where he just got swallowed up by pressure. He was inaccurate on some throws. And I think some of it too might be as they're grading out that the touchdown by Dalvin Cook, Kirk's not going to get a ton of credit for that because it was just a screen pass. So Dalvin would get the credit largely, or offensive linemen. Kirk was incredible, and I probably take issue with where PFF has him, but that's why. Bad first half, couple big plays in the second half that were more like attributed to the skill position players.
All right. This guy seems to rank in the top 3 every week, so I'm going back to the well just because he probably is. Brian O'Neill.
Number 1. Just Mr. Consistency, Brian O'Neill.
If he didn't play a game, would the PFF guy still say, "Oh, Brian O'Neill, number 2 this
80
week.
grade? Yeah.
80 grade," and you'd be like, "Hey, he didn't play." Oh crap, I've been caught. Okay, so we got Brian O'Neill, we got Justin Jefferson. You know what? If Justin Jefferson, this is complete stab in the dark. If Justin Jefferson graded high, which he should have, then I'm going to guess KJ Osborne.
There it is. Wow, that was easy.
That
Quick
was
work for Judd
far
there.
simpler than the defense.
The 3 worst players for the Vikings on offense, 20 snaps or more, Austin Schlottman, TJ Hawkinson, Ezra Cleveland, and then Ed Ingram right behind. Because the first half did exist. It did happen. It was a thing.
I never thought I'd say this. I am growing concerned about the status of Garrett Bradbury's back.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, Doogie sent me a text last week that he's hearing it's bad. Like they're trying to hide it.
And I feel like there's been some games this season where he'll go down, like he'll fall over or whatever on a run block or something. And I've noticed him it takes a lot for him to get up, and teammates will come over and help him up. And he's had back issues before this season, like in previous seasons.
It's not a good position to have back problems at.
No, it's not. So can he kind of grind through the last few weeks? And he's been one of the top 10 or 12 centers in the NFL. This has been a career season for him, and there's a huge drop-off when you put the backup in there. So there he is. Judd guesses mostly correctly the PFF grades. We're going to get into his one of the biggest decisions that he had to make in his life covering sports in a second here. A shout-out to our friends at Underdog. Anyone hit it big over the weekend here, Declan?
I did. I got one from my buddy Keaton, but also Dex Tweets got off the schneid too finally, and he was rewarded. You know, when a team scores 33 points, I think that typically the quarterback was responsible for passing touchdowns. Not if that quarterback's name is Matt Ryan. So I parlayed that with Justin Jefferson receiving yards. And old Dex Tweets finally broke his little bad streak he was on for Underdog Fantasy.
Fading Matt Ryan. Love it.
Which is still the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. You can join with promo code SCORE, SKOR. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. There's some great pick'em options on there from NFL to NBA. And also with the NFL playoffs starting, you can now start drafting your playoff rosters as well. So go to Underdog Fantasy, promo code SCORE, SKOR, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100.
Hey, a lot of people are saying in a couple weeks I'm going to change my life. I'm going to start losing weight, working out, eating right after the holidays. Well, you could get a head start 2 weeks in advance and just feel that much better about yourself, I would think, Judd.
You absolutely could. And you could contact our friends at Livia Weight Control Centers to get that start right now. And I'm going to tell you, there is a deal on the table that is absolutely fantastic. Right now, if you join, save 50%. That's right. Give yourself the holiday gift of health, of welcoming in 2023 with a plan to get all of those clothes that don't fit now to fit by springtime or heck before that. And again, save 50%. 855 go LIVEA, Livia.com. Livia, LIVEA.com. You can either go to the centers here in town. If you're not in town, no concern about that because virtual visits are an option. Livia, LIVEA.com.
And a shout out to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. It's like having a great offensive line for your business. They're sort of looking out on the horizon, protecting against the ripples in the water of business. It's just great to have that guiding hand with over 100 years of knowledge, experience, relationships. Federatedinsurance.com to find out more. Federated, where it's our business to protect yours. All right. I'm going to read you some comments here. If you missed it on Saturday, with the Vikings down 33-0, we had a little conundrum. I said, okay. So we're getting tons of emails and tweets during the first half. People just popping off about the Vikings, fans of Purple Daily, fans of the Vikings, asking if we would consider going live early on Vikings Vent Line. We usually wait until the game is over. I think during the Cowboys game, we went live like late third quarter, early fourth quarter. We generally like to wait until the game is over, and then we go live. And with the Vikings, it was perhaps the worst half of football in the history of the franchise, celebrating their 1,000th meaningful football game on Saturday. And they just dropped a giant Tootsie Roll turd. Shout out to our friends at Nutrisource in the first half.
Who's a good football team?
Who's a good defense? And so we're on a text thread with each other saying, God, we should, if we wait, if this game ends the way that it's going, even if the Vikings come back a little bit, people are just going to have gone about their day. Like people are just going to be, it's 2 hours from now, it's going to be a thing of the past. People want therapy now. People are knocking on the therapist's door now saying, I have a crisis in my football life. I need to talk to a certified sports therapist.
And don't forget, too, we pride ourselves. Like, we talk about the fact that we are your Minnesota sports therapists.
Mm-hmm.
So who are we to tell you to go away in your moment, your hour of need?
We were on a lunch break, and our phone's blowing up. Hey, I'm at the office. I'm knocking on the door. Where are you? What are we supposed to? Oh, sorry.
We took an oath. We took an oath.
Correct. Yes. And part of the conundrum is Judd usually does Vikings vent line for home games from the stadium.
Yep.
He does it in the press box after the game is over. Mm-hmm. The NFL has a rule prohibiting anyone from doing a live content stream during the game unless you are one of the rights holders, the radio or TV rights holders. So Declan and I are saying, well, we could go live, just throw it to the people. It's not the vent line's not really about the three of us, it's about the fans. But then, Judd, you would not get to participate in this epic edition. I mean, we're literally starting vent line at halftime.
And if I may, you were also going to end. So, like, the plan was not to do a post-game one then, too. So, like, the plan
we would end early, yeah.
The game ends, vent line's done, no Judd.
Correct, yes. Or maybe we leak like 10 or 15 minutes. But by then, all the vitriol, because now it would have been like an hour and a half or 2 hours of vitriol that happens during the second. We figured now is the time to provide our therapeutic services, not waiting an hour and a half. And so we went live. And Judd had to make a decision. And we coaxed you. We said, dude, you should just hop in your car and go to the studio. It's just down the street, like 2 miles. Just get to the studio. And you said, okay. I could go back and read the text, but you said that's a good idea, I believe.
I did. Now to go back a little bit, you guys started to, I think you guys started to get notes, or we got notes pretty early in the second quarter as it disintegrated. And at 30-0, I think you guys said we should do this. And I did think to myself at that point, could they come back? And then with, I think, 8 seconds left in the half, Chase McLaughlin kicked a field goal. So it's 33-0. And that's when I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm out of here.
Because now it's pretty much 5 touchdowns. Mathematically, it's now 5 touchdowns.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here's a few comments from people. So, infamously then, obviously, Judd comes to the studio. We spent the first hour and a half as therapists monitoring the situation. And then the game starts to turn. And people notice that you can see on Judd's face the look of regret as the Vikings kick that game-winning field goal. He's thinking, oh my God, I just missed an historic sports moment. So I'm going to read you some comments here from people on Twitter. And Judd, you be the first to respond to some of these. Okay. Bob on Twitter says, honestly, not your finest moment, guys. This is the kind of stuff that fans of other teams ridicule. You guys roast Packer vent line participants mercilessly every week. What do you think they're going to do to you now? You just turned your own vent line into a punchline. Kurt on Twitter says, lost quite a bit of respect for the Score North crew for putting vent line on at halftime and for Judd leaving the stadium at halftime. Come on, man. Dave, by the way, there's like 100 of these I could read, but Dave, you guys are going to get roasted for going live at halftime. You should accept it. So what's your response to the people that think that we have tarnished the vent line name,
the brand, and
that you have tarnished your reputation as a well-respected member of the Minnesota sports media?
I love that. That was a good one. So yeah, for those who think that we used Ventline, a big brand, as a doormat to wipe our feet on, I'm going to tell you this right now. First of all, the most important thing is this: our listeners and viewers are very, very cool. Like we have a core group. It's a big group, but it's a great core group of very cool, smart people who we have found and who I think want Vikings coverage in a different vein than it's probably been available until now. And a lot of those people were asking for us, and we pride ourselves on being there. So for those who think because I got a sense that there's some people, and it feels like they might not get the brand, who feel like we were bad fans. How could you give up on the Vikings? Okay. The core group of Score Norther Purple Daily audience is a very realistic group. They were down 33-0. They wanted to talk about it. I saw a note from a guy who was explaining why he liked that it started at halftime, and it was a great point. He's like, the Dallas game, when they came on, I didn't watch. I was done by then.
That's what we have to weigh.
Right.
It's like the Dallas game. At halftime, you're pissed.
Right.
And that's where we come in. We are there when you are pissed. If we wait 2 hours, you don't care anymore. So we want to be there for you guys in the moment that you need us. And that's what we were trying to weigh during that game, that second quarter.
And we have never sold ourselves, nor will we, as the purple dinosaur, purple. We love the purple. We never give up. We aren't here for the team. And that doesn't mean that we don't want the team to win, because it's way more fun. But we aren't here for the team, and we aren't here to cheer the team on at the expense of the fans that watch us. We are here for the fans.
I think people wanted some of the. I'm probably, I don't know what percentage. It was probably a vocal minority here that we're amplifying, but that it would have been better somehow if we would have ignored thousands of fans that wanted to gripe and vent in that moment because of a 0.0000001% chance that you could hold out hope that they might come back and win this game, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I feel like if we didn't go live when people wanted it at halftime, we would have been doing a disservice to the fans. Like, that's what our obligation and our service is to the fans of the Vikings and Purple Daily and Ventline, and that's why we did it. Not that we have to, I think most people who are watching and listening to this understand. But I just think it's interesting, these people that are dumping on Judd, what a classic. A lot of people think you left because you were, that you stormed out because they were down 33-0. Yeah, I just want to be clear. That is not what happened. Judd has covered in his career as a media member plenty of horse bleep football games. You were in it till the end as a professional, damn it. And we floated the notion to you, and you made your own decision. Yeah. I guess I'm curious to know, just as a fan of football and historical moments, do you have any regret that you left that game early?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding? So I actually sat down and penned a column for my friends at Vikings Wire that you can read that takes you through this entire process. Because do I have regrets as a football fan? Yes. I violated a rule that I set as a child when I wouldn't allow my parents to leave games they took me to until those games were done. Okay. Since then, as an adult, I've been at plenty of bad games and left if I'm a fan. So I'm not saying that I've kept that rule, but as a kid, I always said we can't leave because you don't know. I violated that rule. As a fan, yes, I rue the decision to walk out of the stadium. I missed the most epic comeback in one of the greatest moments that started awful, but in Vikings history. Now, that being said, in doing my job, though, I'm thrilled. It was way more fun. Being able to be there in real time and with, all three of us, and then most importantly, the fan base, as that thing started to turn, was way more of an interesting thing to go through than being alone in the press box with my own thoughts. Now, does that mean I'm glad I didn't see it? No. But, that thing, and we got a ton of notes on this Saturday into Sunday, and I agree completely. That was one of the coolest things media-wise I've ever been involved with.
Yeah.
Because it was awesome. It was awesome to see, and it went from just utter despair, which, again, if you really thought at halftime, don't give up. If you give up, you're not a fan. That's a bunch of garbage. But it was so cool to see the fans and us, and in real time, it turned. So as a media member, I am actually glad I left. As a fan, I'm pissed off at myself.
Yeah. It also, this whole notion of giving up on, you should be ashamed for giving up on your team. For one, Judd left because he wanted to be part of our biggest and main show. So it's not, you didn't storm out. I want to make that clear a second time. But to say that fans who wanted to complain and vent about what they saw during an historically bad first half, to say that you're not giving up on your team. You're still wearing your Vikings jersey. You're still fired up. You're still rooting for your team. You want your team to be better than they were in the first half. Venting about your favorite team is not giving up on your favorite team. And that is somehow that has gotten lost in 2022 fandom and media, where if you criticize or voice displeasure about something that you want to be different, that you are a hater, or that you want everything blown sky high or something, like it's like we've lost the ability for nuance and gray area in 2022. If you complained about that first half, then you gave up on your team. You didn't believe. It's like, no, that's ridiculous.
That's partially though on not necessarily us, but our business, right? Like I feel
what
like
I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like that's not a fan fault. I feel like that's a group of people that have been emboldened to think that by certain entities, not all, just to be very clear here, certain entities in our market where they've been led, and it's I think it's largely the group that began as Moss fans in '98. I think a large part, not all, of that group was led to believe that if you speak ill of the team, how dare you?
Yeah.
And so, it's funny because in some ways, I feel like coverage in sports gets to be at times. Now it's not as important, which is great. Politics, right? So it's like, if you don't believe this, then you're out. It's like, well, no. And that's what I love our group, our group of viewers and listeners. Think about, they're smart. They are critical. They want this team to win. I mean, the before I die thing is actually, that's why you challenge them.
Mm-hmm.
So what I love about our PD family and community is it has so many just really passionate fans, but passionate fans can be critical. That's cool. But just to be very clear, I blame our business more than anyone for creating what Phil just talked about.
Yeah. And one more thing, and I'll shut up because Declan deserves some space here too. But stop telling fans how to be fans. If fans were pissed about the first half, justifiably so, they deserve an outlet to express that. We happen to provide the outlet. But there's a lot of fan shaming that goes on, and I've probably been guilty of it too. But there's like, if you really thought that someone was a bad fan because they were pissed about that first half, then let's see your betting slip for the second half. Let's see how confident you really were. Did you put money on the Vikings to come back and win? Did you put your money where your mouth was? I'm glad it played out the way that it did. I'm glad if we had to be clowned or something, if at the end of the day, we're clowns for starting Ventline at halftime. Think about how much more fun that whole experience was as the tide started to turn late third quarter, fourth quarter, etc., into a celebration. I don't think I would have wanted it any other way for Ventline and the fans that participated, throughout the entire day, and anyone who watched it the last 48 hours. So sorry, Declan, go ahead.
No, you're good. I would say from a content and a business perspective, we had to go early. We just simply had to go early. The game was out of hand. Fans were complaining. The demand was there. It made sense. And looking at what we were able to do, the evidence backed it up. Like, people tuned in. We had epic rants to start.
It is the most consumed episode of Vikings Ventline now in the history of the show.
So there's no regret there. To Judd's point, from a fan's perspective, yeah, I mean, it was upset. I don't get, like when my fiance was like, "Why did you start early?" She left before the game started, and then I come home and she can tell I'm ready in the back room doing vent line. She's like, "Why did you start early?" It's like, because it was 33-0, and they had a .05 or whatever the hell it was % chance to win the game, and for all the reasons I also laid out. But also, yeah, we had to serve both those audiences, and it ended up working out in the long run. So, yeah, would I have loved to see how that played out as a fan, or if I was in the stadium even as a fan? Oh my God, I bet that was insane. I had family and friends at the game, and I'm sure it was an absolute blast and a great ride to experience that. But from a business and content perspective, it made a ton of sense for us to go live early.
Yeah, Judd left the stadium to be there for you guys. Think about that.
Comeback in NFL, not the Vikings history, in NFL history.
Yeah.
But again, we can't claim to be sports therapists for a state that, my God, needs it, and then decide, but our hours are 9 to 5 Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And just from this idea of I wouldn't be able to take that game and sleep on it for a night, and then, all right, now let's really go after this. Like, there's things in sports sometimes, it's called in the moment, where you have to attack it. and you have to go after it because that's the best possible outcome. And I'm glad. That's why I'm glad we did it when we did.
We gambled and lost, but won, I guess. All of us. The fans who were part of it. It was, I think the game and the experience was more fun for me because we got to do the whole complaining thing with you guys and then saw it turn in real time and experience that in real time was incredible. So
I agree.
I know we were going to do Vikings nitpicks, but we're already like 50 minutes into this episode, so I think we could just maybe even save those. There's plenty of things to nitpick. Maybe we can save some of those for tomorrow's show. But for now, it's still a celebrash. NFC North champions, an 11-win season. This is the first time Kirk Cousins himself has been the quarterback for 11 wins in one season. The Vikings did have an 11-win season. He sat the last game, if I'm not mistaken. So he had 10 wins to his credit. So he's reaching new heights. And, they have 3 games left in the regular season and a chance to clinch the 2 seed here in the coming weeks. Let's shout out our friends, too. If you're looking for a good holiday-themed date idea, potentially Chanhassen Dinner Theaters. Speaking from experience, I've had a good time there a couple different times, Judley.
That is correct. And yes, as Phil just said, a date idea is this simple. I am holding up right here a gift card, and this, guys, is going to make you a hero for your wife, girlfriend. This allows you to pick what you want to see, and there is something for everyone. Let's say, Footloose, The Prom, Jersey Boys. Don't like that? How about this? That concert series, tribute concerts from everything from the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Sinatra, Patsy Cline. The comedy improv show at Stevie Ray's is a blast as well. That's right. Again, there is something for everyone. And you know what? You also get a great meal, a great steak, prime rib, or the famous chicken chan, your choice. You can call to get the gift card, 952-934-1525, 952-934-1525, or go to chanhassendt.com, chanhassendt.com, a gift card, a date night. You guys will have great fun. Stocking stuffer as well, chanhassendt.com. Check it out.
All right, dudes. There's your Monday episode here of Purple Daily, Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. What a season so far. We'll see you guys tomorrow on the show.